We're very, very privileged to have a guest with us, Melisa Caprio. She is an author. She's written a book called Postcards to the Universe, and we'll be talking to her in just a little bit. Before we get started, I just want to again thank you for joining us on KUHS International. I want to just introduce a couple of books from friends of the station. A couple of books that have been written by Albert Quintana, The Crochet Lady, and his second book, No More Green Chili. So both of these books are available on quintanareads.com. Also, would like to just talk a little bit about Meditations with Masters of the Axial Age by Charlie Pucciello, who was featured on the Friday show, the Council. And so if you're interested in either of these books, get a hold of the station, or you can get a hold of either of these authors through their websites. I am the author of The Caregiver's Handbook, a self-help love story, and I just I'm so appreciative of those of you who have been placing orders on the book over the last couple of weeks. And just really, again, thank you for being with us. We are so excited today because I got a chance to talk to Melisa a little earlier this week, and she is a person who is right in the same wavelength as me. I believe so much in the laws of the universe. I think I have something turned up on this radio station. I got to come over here and figure it out. That's better. So, Melisa, again, thank you for joining us. Tell me, I was just reading a little bit about your bio and a little bit of information about you this morning, and you started out completely by accident in this field of study.
Yeah, I did. Thank you for having me, actually. I really appreciate having this opportunity. So, how it started for me is, and I don't know if I told you this when we were talking on the phone, but so my background is I'm a photographer, fine art photographer.
Yes.
And after I had this great job for a long time, I was married and I was living in my house in the Florida Keys, and it was really great. I worked with dolphins. It was wonderful. And all around the same time, everything kind of ended. It just sort of fell that way. So universe is, I guess, way of kicking me in the butt and waking me up to some other things. So when I moved back to the mainland, as we like to call it, because we say we're on the rock when we're in the Keys, I was searching, like I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was asking myself questions, like why was all this happening at once? You know, I was going through a lot of pain, and I started learning about the law of attraction and how we are co-creators with the universe and the things that we manifest in our life. So I started looking, and I realized how I manifested the job working with the dolphins as a photographer. And one night, I heard, I was falling asleep, when you're in that spot where you're not quite asleep, but you're still awake, so you're kind of aware. I heard really loud in my head, postcards to the universe. So I felt like I got that like those goosebumps, like I felt like it was super important, and it was probably about 1 in the morning, and I literally got up and I turned my computer on and I went to GoDaddy to see if the domain name was available, because I knew it was important. I didn't know why it was important. And I bought the domain, and I just sat there for a year. I didn't know what to do with it, but I just knew that I got some kind of a divine message. So that's the short version of how it started.
Very cool. So yeah. once you got this, I'm going to call it a premonition. Once you got this feeling, did it kind of go to the back of your mind, or was it on the forefront all the time, or was it just something that just kept nagging at you? How did it manifest itself?
Well, it's interesting because what started to happen was, so I'm pretty sure I remember saying to my family, I got this great idea, like right away. And I didn't know exactly what the idea was, So it was kind of always in the forefront of my mind. And what's so cool about manifestation in the universe is people started showing up in my life in the most synchronicities would come, and I would meet somebody who would help guide me to my next step. So I became very good friends with a woman who her and her husband built websites. And they were into this, and they helped me formulate what I wanted my website to look like. This is not my original website. I actually just redid my website like about 3 months ago. I did my website. But they helped me kind of get an idea of how I wanted this to look. And then I knew another woman, and she just started teaching a law of attraction course. It was a 12-week course. Of course, I took the course.
Very cool.
So all of those things kind of fell in line that helps propel me to the next level and really helped me formulate what I wanted this project to be.
So at what point did you decide that it was going to become a book?
I probably decided maybe a good year after the website was up. I decided that I wanted to do a book. Because what I ask people to do, so for people who are listening and watching us, I ask people to create a postcard, which is sort of like a mini vision board, and I'll show everybody some examples in a minute of what a postcard could look like. There's no rules; it could be anything you want. And then send it to me, or I also teach workshops to create a manifesting postcard. And when their manifestation comes into their physical reality, to share their story with me. So originally it was just going to be on blogs and that kind of stuff. And then what started to happen is I thought, oh, wouldn't this be a really fantastic book? Because if I collect enough stories and I collect enough postcards, people can look and see other people's manifestations and what they created on their postcard and then their story. And I photograph, this is where my fine art stuff comes in. I photograph people's postcards when I get them.
Cool.
So I have like baskets and boxes full of postcards. It's cool.
So how soon after you started sending out postcards did they start returning to you?
You know, it probably, it trickled right away. It started trickling in right away. But the past year, since I really got real serious about it, probably 2 years ago, or actually maybe 3 years ago now. God, time is flying so fast. I took a writing workshop with Wayne Dyer when he was here in Fort Lauderdale, and he's actually, I have his signature in my book because I wrote Postcards to the Universe, and then I went up and I asked Wayne to sign it, and this was 2 years before he passed away. And I think that's when I got real serious. And once I made that confirmation, the universe responded. And people started showing up, and things were happening. That's when I got my radio show, you know, I got a radio show, and so these things started to get really, I was confirming to the universe that I was serious about what I wanted to do, which was really good.
So when you talk about the universe, there are specific laws, and more than I want to discuss on the show right now, but there's a couple of shows, there's a couple of laws, I guess, that can't be disputed. You know, there is, as prominent as gravity. The law of attraction is one of them.
Yes.
And when you start developing and understanding the law of attraction, what happens to you?
Well, so this is how the law of attraction works. It's always working. And the problem is it's usually working in the ways we don't want it to work. So everybody knows that somebody who always has a problem, we all know somebody who, right, every time you meet them, they're like, oh, let me tell you on this problem. Because where they're taps into the energy, they're magnetizing the energy of problems. So more problems come their way, and they're like, oh, I'm just unlucky. Why do I always have a problem? Because that's the energy that they're in. And usually when we worry about stuff and we're thinking about things and we're constantly in that space, we have more of those issues show up. So what I learned is how to be a conscious co-creator, to try to avoid being in the problem and be in the solutions and be in the vortex like Abraham. I'm sure a lot of people that do that, a lot of people know Abraham Hicks. Abraham talks about being in the vortex. And the law of attraction is just our energies matching. So if you want to manifest, let's say, a promotion in your job, right? But you don't feel you deserve it, or you don't feel you're good enough for it, or you're putting yourself down and you're criticizing that, and the job is up here and you're here, you can't meet. It won't come to you. So what we have to learn how to do is bring ourselves up to meet what it is that we want and that feel good, whether it's the promotion, the vacation, the relationship, better health, whatever it is.
That's the only way you can synchronize that meeting of the inevitable, if you will.
It's just energy. And now scientifically, they're being able to prove it more and more. They're actually being able to physically prove how energy manifests and how it magnetizes, which is really cool. Science is catching up.
It's about time.
Right.
You know, Eckhart Tolle talked about a new age, a new awakening that would be taking place in America. And more, and it seems like everywhere I go, I seem to find people who are understanding the law of attraction and understanding manifestation. And it's just so exciting to me because I do believe that we are entering this new age, and this awakening is not just local. You know, it's
Right.
international, and it's exciting.
Yeah. I so agree.
Tell me a little bit about some of your postcards, Melissa.
So what I do is I'm going to hold some up so people can see who are watching. So I ask the way that I have people do a postcard, and I even offer this in the book. I have a lot of writing exercises because people will say, you know, you'll say, what do you want? And somebody will say, I want to be happy. Okay, well, what does happy look to you? Well, I have no idea. I just want to be happy, right? So the universe doesn't really know what you're asking for. We all want to be happy, of course. We all want to be peaceful. We all want, you know, these things. So I have writing exercises for people to get very clear on. First, let's get real clear on what it is we're asking for. So is happiness to you moving? Is it a different job? Is it a relationship change? You know, what is your happiness? You know, is it better health? So that means, okay, once we get that done, I have people sit down, get real focused, you know, trying to get into that energetic space, and we get real playful. And playful creative energy is super strong, and it's super magnetizing. So I love when people get creative, and that's why people like to do the postcards, because it's like when we were little kids and we would be in a coloring book, or we would be painting and crafting and all that stuff. It was fun, and we were tapped into that energy. So I ask people to use whatever they want. A lot of people will cut pictures out of magazines that resonate with what it is they want. Some people who I know that are artists that create postcards, they'll paint them, they'll sketch them, and they're putting everything it is that is in a visual sense that magnifies with their desire. So if it's a relationship, somebody may put pictures of couples on their honeymoon. If it's money, somebody may put pictures of a certain kind of house that they would like to have at some point, or cars. And for this person, so this, here's just I'm showing you a small postcard. So let's see, where's the camera? Can you see? Oh, here I am. Here I am. Okay. So this just shows you an example of one postcard. So she cut out words and she cut out pictures to give you what her desire is. So that's one. And we can, like I said, you can totally think outside the box. This person's is about traveling. So hers is front and back. So you have this. So just look how cool. You could get so creative.
Wow, like a mini vision board.
Yeah, it's like a mini vision board.
Oh, that is too cool.
So she does front and back. So it's super cool. And now this one is about a relationship. So hers is just, let me turn it upside down. So hers is front and back, and she did it so beautifully. This is her front.
Oh, very nice.
And then the card opens.
Oh.
Isn't that amazing? So, you know, it could be that big. It could be a little 4x6. You could just write down, you know, a letter, whatever you want, whatever feels right, people can create. And in the book, which you can see the cover of the book behind me, I have 30 postcards, and one is mine, and 29 other stories about how people who created a postcard, they sent them to me. Some people send them to me, and some of these have been created in workshops.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Tell me, when they first started coming in, what kind of stories were you getting?
Oh my God. Well, most of the stories are, you know, people usually want to bring something in that they feel is lacking. And so I always say, well, we have to come from a sense of abundance already so that we can meet the abundance that we want. Because when we come in with a feeling of lack, usually we're attracting more lack. And that's why people, when, you know, The Secret came out, it didn't really show people how to do it. And people were like, well, what am I going to just sit on my couch and say I want this, and then it's going to magically appear? No, it doesn't work that way. You have to kind of like take inspired action. So a lot of the stories that would come to me were of people that wanted a relationship and then manifested a relationship. Stories where people wanted a career change and something like crazy happened that sort of shifted their career in a completely different direction. I have a couple stories. Some of the stories are about people wanting to let go of the past, let go of of some things that they feel is holding them back. Like, I tell this story a lot. I had one woman make a postcard, and she wanted to release a past relationship, even though she was remarried. And she felt that something was, she wasn't giving to her husband all of herself. Like, she just felt like she was still carrying a past relationship. And the reason I like to use this story because it's so crazy. So she comes to my workshop, and she's just going to make a postcard about making art, right? That's what she figured. But she's an art teacher, so she's like, I'm already doing that. So she just kind of did it with her friend as it was a fun exercise, and it was creating, and she was having fun. So about a month or two after the workshop, she messaged me and she said, I want to make another postcard and send it to you. And I said, okay, that's awesome. She's like, I just feel like I need to let go of something. I said, okay. So she created a postcard. She sent it to me, and this was like, it took her a while. She didn't like get off the phone with me and I got it right away, probably another month or so later. So once the postcard is in the mail, she messages me that day and she said, you're never gonna believe what happened. So she was in her previous relationship. She kind of got jerked around. The guy was young, they were together, they were supposed to get married, and they never did, and she felt very betrayed, and she sort of never forgave him. So she kind of fully didn't allow herself to trust her husband now, even though she had kids with him and she adored him. She felt like she was holding back. So the day she sent me the postcard, the ex reached out to her on Facebook.
Wow.
And said to her, I've been carrying this. I am feeling so guilty. I owe you an apology for the way that I treated you. She hadn't spoken to him for 15 years. And it was the day she put it in the mail.
Man, that's energy.
I know, isn't that incredible? That's an incredible story. So it's like those kind of stories are, and then I have another story in the book of a gentleman who was an attorney and hated it, and he was a criminal defense attorney, and he hated it. And he made a fortune, he made so much money, and he came to one of my art events, and we have art events all the time where I live, and he just actually didn't even make a postcard. He grabbed one of mine, like my photos, and he wrote how he just wanted to change his, he wanted to like find joy in his life, right? That was what he wrote. He wasn't even thinking any of this stuff is real. So I didn't even know him.
Wow.
Find out he, about 6 months after that, had a heart attack. And he realized that he had to change his life. He quit his job and he became a teacher. And what he wanted to teach was in schools that were, lower income schools where they really needed help to teach, especially young men, to become more empowered so they're not in the criminal defense's chair. He took a pay cut, he had to move, and he has never been happier. And he said that the heart attack is what needed it. He had a broken heart because he was doing something that he just absolutely hated.
His heart wasn't in it.
And he didn't even think about it. And then it just kind of clicked, and we reconnected because I reached out to him, I heard about the heart attack. And then we started talking, and I was like, you wrote something down, so be careful. So I mean, most people give me their name I can use most. He didn't want me to use his name for privacy because of his ex-clients and the kids and all that stuff. So I said, no problem. But his story's in the book.
That's incredible. And it's funny how the universe provides in ways that we don't expect. I was just reading your story, how you started out, photographing your sister in dolphins, and it took a completely different, you wanted to be with Jacques Cousteau at one time.
Yeah. So that's what, so I like to tell this personal story, so how manifestation works. So when I was a kid, I was obsessed with Jacques Cousteau, and I wanted to be a marine biologist.
I did too.
And I really wanted to work with dolphins. That was my thing. And I watched everything, every video, everything you can watch, and I was just loved the dolphins. So, and this is when I was very little, probably 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, those years, real little. So, we moved, and a couple of things happened, and I had a teacher, a marine biologist teacher who was not very supportive of women as scientists. So, and I was I was like 15 at that time. So So as a young girl, you take these stories on, like you'll never be good enough, it's like a man, kind of that very misogynistic. So I took the story on, but I didn't realize this at the time. Now this is just me going back and looking back. And then boys became super important and boyfriends and, life takes over. So I let the dream go about going that way. Fast forward, I found photography and I loved it. And I have a sister who is developmentally disabled. And I started photographing her in her programs, and I would start to go to group homes, and I would do all the fun activities they would do. It was kind of like documentary style photography. And I was doing that for a couple of years, and so the work started getting repetitious, and I happened to be watching television one day, and I think it was the Animal Planet. It was the Animal Planet or Discovery Channel, and I saw they had a dolphin-assisted therapy program in the Florida Keys. I only lived 80 miles from there. So I was like, oh, I got to go down there. I got to see they're working with the same kind of kids I'm photographing, right? I said, maybe I can add that. And I'm thinking I'll just add that to the kind of work that I'm doing. So I actually hand wrote him a letter and asked him if I would come and observe. And I said, could I bring my camera? Would that be cool? And he's like, yeah, as long as we get permission from the families, just give them some photographs you take and it's all good. So I did that, and I think it was the third or fourth time I was there. The families really liked me, and the staff really liked me. He took me to lunch, and he offered me a job as the staff photographer. And I just said yes on the spot.
Wow.
I had a gallery at the time. I lived somewhere else. I didn't even talk to my partners or anything, or at the time I was in a relationship with the person I was in a relationship. I didn't even talk to him about it. I just said yes, because it was so amazing. And so for 7 years, I photographed dolphin-assisted therapy with kids who were, handicapped, developmentally disabled, and physical handicaps doing therapy. So the reason I like to use that story is, and I didn't know it at the time, but I know it now, my intention was so strong as a little girl, sending out my desire to have that kind of a relationship. It didn't come the way I thought it was going to come. It came in a completely different way, and probably better than I could have ever imagined, because it was the most incredible experience.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so where did you go from there?
Well, that's when, so at that time, so after the 7 years, the program was ending, and at the same time the program was ending, my marriage was ending, and it's a very small, there's not a lot of job opportunities, so you really kind of go there either if you're retired or if there's a specific place you're going to be working for, where you have a ton of money and you can just live, on the water. Because it's a really small little rock, really. So I had to leave my house, so the job ended, just so happened to end. So, and then as the marriage was ending, I'm thinking, I'm not staying here, so I'm moving. And then that's when I found out about the law of attraction and manifestation, and then postcards formed. And in the meantime, I did commercial photography.
Oh, very exciting. So it's just like all of these pieces that were just coming together, and they all fit perfectly, just like a Mayan stone.
Yeah.
And here you are.
I know. It's pretty exciting. It's actually really exciting.
So now you do workshops?
I do workshops. I am trying to figure out actually how to do the kind of workshop I do hands-on online, like through like a Zoom or something, like how I can get more people to come from their own living rooms and how we can create postcards together. So, because what happens is when people come to my place and I host one, I have so many crafts, so many magazines, so many cool things for us to play with that people like to use, and we do, like I said, our writing exercises, and it's kind of like it's really fun to do together, but I would like to be able to do it where people can do it from their house. So I'm just trying to figure out how I can put a program together that people would be interested in doing.
So you're manifesting that as we speak.
I'm manifesting that as we speak, and then I have another workshop which I need to put online. And this one is much easier to do. So it's a 30-day gratitude, because I talk a lot about gratitude, because I think gratitude is the fastest and most powerful way to manifest. So the more grateful we are, the more things we have to be, the more things come to us to be grateful for when we're living in gratitude. So my 30-day manifesting course is I ask people to use, since I'm a photographer, I ask people to use their phones and use photos. So we focus on a certain area and we take pictures of what that represents. So if it's love, anything that you see in your day that looks like love, take a picture of it. So we're retraining our brains, right? So in 30 days, you have a beautiful visual journal of things that you're concentrating on being grateful for, and it shifts our brains. It really does. It's really cool.
In your book, you talk a little bit about short-circuiting. I guess I'm paraphrasing, but short-circuiting our brain in a negative way, and so we kind of, like you said, we negatively manifest things into our life. And we don't even realize we're doing that. It's, impacting things that have happened in our lifetime, habits that we've developed, things we say to ourselves. And when we have a habit of being that person or doing those kind of things, and by the way, I want to just say, I just love that you touched on gratitude, and I want to get back to that. So, but when someone is on that path of almost a self-destruction or a self-loathing or just no self-confidence, what do they need to do to take and shift, do a paradigm shift? What do they need to do?
Well, yeah, that's when you're in that space and you're really, really feeling down, and you can't even think like, I am not grateful for nothing. I don't even want to get out of bed. You're in that space. The first thing I do is I ask people to see if there is someone somewhere where they can maybe get some support. Support is really good. So whether that's a book, whether that's a coach, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a healer, whether it's just a really good friend, to start speaking about what's going on. Speak what's going on with you. And once you can start doing that, even if you can start in like little baby steps. So maybe you feel so terrible, but you're grateful that you have a roof over your head. I mean, I know that sounds kind of like, but it's true. A lot of people don't have that. So to be grateful that you have a roof over your head, or grateful that you have running water just to go into a shower, like those kinds of things. If you can just start exactly where you are, even if it's just look for 3 things in a day, to start there. And the more we look within and we can shift what's going on inside of ourselves, the more, things we'll be grateful for. So what's really cool, what starts to happen is the brain, when you shift what's going on in your brain and you start to be like, okay, I'm going to do this gratitude thing, and you make it like a game, your mind starts to look for things to be grateful for. So it plays with you. So if it's, I'm going to look for all the things that I look for that I think are cool for financial abundance. So you start taking pictures or you're writing it down or whatever. As you go about your day, your brain's going to start looking for those things. You're going to start noticing those things that you haven't noticed before. And it takes practice. It's definitely takes practice, because we have a habit of being able to switch into negative mode really easy, and getting into positive is a little bit tougher, right?
Absolutely.
Isn't that true?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But it's like the thing, like, when people say, I didn't know everybody had, a black Jetta. Let's say that's your car, right? All of a sudden, because you got a new car, you see them everywhere. So it's kind of like that sort of thing. Once you become aware of it, you start to see those things everywhere. Yeah. And then if you are going through something that's super hard and depression, like, I would stay away from any negative news. Stop reading the news. Stop watching those kind of things. Start watching anything that makes you laugh, like, binge watch sitcoms, just to kind of like shift your vibration. Don't watch violent movies. Don't get off of social media if that is triggering for you, until you can start to shift your energy.
So you've given a whole host of things that people can do, and talk a little bit about a gratitude journal. Do you have a gratitude journal, or do you talk to people about that?
I do. That's part of the 30-day gratitude journal. It's a visual journal. So when I ask people to do, for me, I like to photograph the things that I see that I'm grateful for. I used to write into a journal every day the 5 things that I'm grateful for. But now before I go to sleep at night, I just say them out loud, like before, like I'm grateful that I got to meet a friend for lunch today. I'm grateful, whatever. I bought myself this really cool thing I wanted for a long time, like, and I'll say those things every day before I go to bed. I used to write them down. And writing is really, really powerful, but now that I do it so much, it's become second nature to me. I don't write them down as much. I usually just say them. But what I do is I take my phone and I take pictures of cool things that I see that give me a sense of gratitude.
Very cool.
So in the gratitude course, the gratitude journal course, I made it a visual gratitude journal to even give it that extra spark and power, because you see my book, so there's photos in the book, and so that's how I like to do it. But I highly recommend writing down at least 3 things a day that you're grateful for.
Yes. When I first started dating my girlfriend, she didn't know about gratitude journals, and we were sitting there, and I started filling out my gratitude journal, and I have it on my phone, and I do the talk speak. And she was saying, geez, how many things can you be grateful for? And I said, well, I started naming, I'm so grateful that my puppy came and laid on my chest today. I am so grateful for that delicious dinner that I had. And, all of a sudden, all of these things come to your mind that, I got 10 fingers,
That's what happens.
Yeah.
That's a great idea, though. I'm so glad you brought that up. You do it on your phone, and you do it through talk.
Yes.
So if you just see something or you think of something, then you just write it down that way. So that's another way people that can do it in this digital age. It doesn't have to be, with a journal.
Yes.
Or you can get a friend, and you can do every day. You text each other. What are your 3 things today?
Oh, what a great idea!
It will keep you accountable. It keeps you accountable, and the other person is like, oh, I'm having a really hard time today. I can't find 3 things. And you could say, well, just look around your house. What are 3 things in your house that you're grateful that you have? Kind of like to get our brains to switch. It's constant practice. It's like a muscle.
Absolutely.
You got to work it out.
Folks, if you're just joining us, thank you for joining us. You're watching KUHS International. This is the Weekend Boost, and I'm Paul Lane. Today we're talking to our guest, Melisa Caprio, and you are in Florida?
I am. I'm in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
In Fort Lauderdale, and she's the author of Postcards to the Universe. And I met her last week, and we talked on the phone for about 30 minutes, and I was just so inspired after talking to you. Just, so many things that I've been so fortunate to have discovered the law of attraction and to see it go. I went from homelessness 8 years ago to having owned 2 homes within 5 years.
Oh my God!
And it was just the decision, and it was just the manifesting just coming to fruition. I think that next to gratitude, there's got to be faith, belief in the possibles, the possibilities. Right. When you first started doing the postcards, did you have doubts, or were you full steam ahead, or did you stumble, or did it come very easily to you, or?
No, I still have doubts some days, of course. I did not go off it like that. I had lots of doubts. It was, like I said, it's just been a constant being aware of what's going on in my thinking. I have a tendency to be real sarcastic. I have a little bit of that sarcastic wit. So, I got to catch myself, a lot. And it really is practice. It's constantly reminding myself, why are you saying that? Questioning myself all the time. Sometimes I still have really bad days. If I'm just having a bad day, I'll allow myself to have that day. Sometimes we need it. We have to process, whatever's going on. If we're angry at someone or something tragic happened, you have to allow yourself that space. The problem is living there. That's what we don't want to do. We don't want to live in that negative, depressive, angry, unforgiving state, because our body will manifest, I believe, dis-ease. Our
absolutely.
body holds the records of our emotional pain, so we hold it, so we want to process it. And then I just try to remind myself and use all my tips and tools of getting myself into a better, more positive space. And when I am, that's when things happen. And I agree with you, you have to have faith. The universe wants you to be happy. It wants you to have what you want. It, you know, it is not good or bad. You know, it's neutral. So wherever we are is the world that we're seeing outside of us. So the world you see outside of you, if you see an angry world, I would say ask yourself, are you angry? Who are you angry at? Who do you need to work this out with? If you can't work it out with a person, maybe you can write them letters. Maybe you can do rituals to kind of get that out of your system. If you see a happy world, then you know that you're joyful inside. It's always a reflection of us, and that's what the law of attraction really is. We're always getting a reflection back of who we are. So why not be conscious about it and co-create, right?
Absolutely.
Like, we're here for how long? A short period of time. Might as well make the best of it.
You bet.
Have some fun.
You bet. You know, I recently came to a realization. I guess I've always known this, but you know, as I look at my life, I have 61 years behind me. I know I don't have 61 years ahead of me. I'm pretty sure of that. But I know this, you know, the years that I have, whether it's 5, 10, 20, 30 years, I want them to be the best years, you know, and the best day of your life should be today. And you know, I just continually share that with people, and I always, I try to live by that rule, you know. And
That's
so,
a good rule to live by.
So somewhere, yes.
You're right. We only have the present. The past is gone, and tomorrow isn't here, or guaranteed. So you only have the moment that you're in, so you might as well make the best of it. And I just want to say something that really helped me. And I don't know if men do this as much, and maybe you can answer the question. Women, we have a tendency to be super critical of ourselves, especially when we see ourselves in the mirror. And I stopped. And I really stopped. Every time I would look in the mirror, I would say, oh, look at my hair, and oh, what's this, a new wrinkle, whatever it is, you know? And I stopped. And that made a huge shift in my life. Because if the first thing you do when you see yourself in the mirror is say you look like crap, or you know you criticize yourself, you take that in, and it affects you. So if you can learn to stop doing that, that is such a gift you can give yourself. Catch yourself and say, oh, I see what you're doing here. No, I love you. You're special. And just, you know, and it takes practice, and you got to keep doing it. Mirror work is really powerful. Louise Hay talks a lot about mirror work. She was big on that. Every morning she would sit down and she would say, I love you, Louise. I love you so much. And she just genuinely got to that place, which is amazing. So if you could do mirror work. But I don't know if men are as critical of themselves as women are.
Oh, I think you'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you know, a lot of men hold that in because they don't have the tendency to be expressive as women. But I do believe, and I can speak only for myself, but I can tell you that I'm probably my worst critic, you know. And I started a new job, and I was testing for it all week, and yesterday was the big day, and it was about a 4-hour test. And all day long I was saying, I don't test well, I don't test well. And I took the test, and I passed it, you know, I did fine, but I called my daughter afterwards, and she says, Dad, listen to what you just said. And I thought about today's interview, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm manifesting, I don't test well, you know?
Right.
And so self-talk, self-talk is so critical.
So critical.
Do you do much with affirmations at all?
I do a lot of affirmations. Yes, I do. I say them a lot, and I did it for in the mirror. I did it for in the mirror for a while, and that really shifted a lot of things for me. I would stand in front of the mirror and say affirmations and look at myself right in the eyes before makeup, before the hair was styled. I would do it. That's what, because Louise recommended doing that. That's how she she was the first person that actually I discovered who opened this world up to me with her Heal Your Life, you know. So she talks about it. So I said, I'll do it. You know, I know it's not going to be easy, and it wasn't easy at first. And she recommends doing it before you primp yourself and pretty yourself when you roll out of bed. And I did it for a couple of months, and it really shifted. So yeah, I do.
Very cool. You know, there was an affirmation I learned when I was 20 years old, and I still use it. It says this: whatever you vividly imagine, ardently desire, sincerely believe, and enthusiastically act upon must inevitably come to pass.
Ooh, I love that.
That's from Paul J. Meyer out of Waco, Texas. He had an organization called Success Motivation Institute. Anyway, I learned that when I was 20 years old, and honestly, the dynamics of it have always been at the back of my mind, but until the last 4 or 5 years, it's really come to light. It's really taken on a new meaning to me. And so, you know, listening to what you're saying, you know, in your book, it's just very, very much along those lines. You know, you're visualizing, you're expecting, you have complete faith, and of course, activity and action.
Yes, absolutely. It's like, I like to remind myself, I heard this story. It's like when we go to a restaurant and we order food, right? We place our order, we sit down. We don't worry about what they're doing in the kitchen. We're not thinking, how's it going to be prepared? All this stuff like we do. So it's kind of like, I think of it like that. Like, you know, somebody's going to bring it to your table and sit it in front of you, right? When you're at a restaurant. So I like to remind myself of that when I start going, when is this going to happen? And when is this coming? And what's going on? You know, the universe got my order.
That's right.
It's on the job. It got it. I got it. And it's a good time. It's a good way to bring you back, you know, kind of like and grounding yourself, you know. And meditation, I have to admit, I'm not the best on meditation. I have a quick mind, and it's always all over the place. So I'm better when I listen to a meditation where somebody's walking me through. But you know, some people swear by meditation that really gets you inside and really grounded. So if that works for you, I highly recommend it.
Yes.
Because I know some people who, once they started meditating, they're like just shifted.
Actually, I was talking to my daughter about that yesterday too, funny enough. And meditation has so many healing properties and so much ability to gain focus in your life and control and stability, and you know, it's just so awesome. You know, just the power of the mind. I have some little bit of high blood pressure. And last night I put my blood pressure cuff on and I took it, and man, it was off the charts. I laid back and I took some deep breaths and I just really relaxed myself. I took another reading, and it was, you know, 117 over 74, you know, and that's like, man, that was what it was when I was 20, you know, so.
Wow, that's incredible.
It's just a testament to the power of the mind, and, you know, we can even manifest health, you know. My daughter's reading a book, it's called The Code of the Extraordinary Mind, and she's talking about visualization. And this young man had horrible acne, and nothing helped. He had been through, you know, consultants and doctors and, you know, skin and, you know, everything. And he finally just started visualizing himself with perfectly clear skin. And within 2 weeks, his skin completely cleared up.
Wow. No, it's incredible. So many people are talking about that. I don't know if you know Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Yes. Becoming Supernatural.
Right? It's crazy the things that we can do.
Yes.
I know it really is. I love listening to him too. Listening to him talk, and he's got like science behind him, which I love. And I do think that we're waking up. I think, and I have to remind myself of this too when I see horrible stories. That I don't watch the news, but if something comes my way, you know, I can't help but see it. I really think that part of why we're seeing what we're seeing is we're vibrating, we're going higher, and old paradigms are pushing down. So that's why there's these huge things that are happening right now. The old is trying to hold on to itself, but we're shifting consciousness, we're shifting. So, you know, we're kind of in the middle of it right now. So I have faith that we're all going to collectively, you know, move up the ladder, you know, as a whole. Because, you know, if you listen to some people talk, I mean, there's only one of us here, and we're all a reflection of each other. So we're all connected. I mean, and that's some wild stuff when you start listening to that. You're like, whoa, that'll just blow your mind open.
Man, I recommend that book.
There's only one of us.
Yes. So funny that you know about Dr. Joe Dispenza. That's so awesome. I mean, just right back to what we're talking about, manifestation. Hey,
manifestation.
Can you give us some postcard stories?
Okay, so I'm going to grab my book so I can I'm going to flip through. So I don't know if I showed, so this is the book, you can see behind me. I'm going to just show a pop-up inside story. So here, so if you can see. So this is this girl, Jenny, and she manifested a free trip to Mexico. So that's why I took her postcard on the train. See?
Oh, I see it.
So, because it's all about travel. So she's been wanting to go to Mexico, and she created, a postcard about traveling, and Mexico was on her brain. That was one of the places that she wanted to go. And in fact, it was her password for all of her stuff was Mexico with these numbers. So a friend called her up and said, "Hey, I happen to have a free trip to Mexico. All you got to do is get your airfare. The hotels, everything's covered. You want to go?"
Man.
And she's like, "Are you kidding me?"
Oh, man.
So what happened is she got off the days at work that she needed. She got a great price for her flight, and it was like 4 or 5 days, an all-inclusive trip to Mexico with a friend. It was already paid for. Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
So it's like those are the kind of stories. There's another story in the book. This one girl, she dances tango and flamenco. So I have her postcard over. Can I grab it? Do you mind if I just go off camera? Because it's the craziest story. So let me just get it. It's right here.
While you're there, I'm going to just share this poem I learned a long time ago. An enemy of mine I had, whose face I stoutly strove to know. For hard he dogged my steps unseen, wherever I did go. One night I seized and held him fast, and from the vial did draw. I looked upon his face at last, and lo, myself I saw.
Wow.
So,
who wrote that?
I don't. It's an unknown author, but
I like that. That's
just
pretty cool.
reminds us of so much of everything good and everything bad. We are in control.
Yeah, we have so much more control than we think. So she wrote this postcard. She sent this, and then she sent this with it. So this is the important thing. So this was a few years ago. So her postcard is about travel and love and romance and all that kind of stuff. So she is a flamenco and a tango dancer. She loves to do that, not professionally, just as a hobby. She's always loved it. So right after, about 3 months after she sent me this postcard, she got the opportunity to go on a tour, a flamenco tour in Spain, right?
Wow.
So yeah, in Spain, which just came out of nowhere. It wasn't expected, and she did it. And the town she went to was this, the one that she sent me.
Wow.
It was a little town, and she was like, she couldn't even, and that was not anything that was planned. It looked just like this. It was this little town that she was doing her dancing in.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, that is so crazy. So those are the things that happen. Those are just kind of some of the stories in the book. I mean, people manifest healing, and people manifest relationships and career changes. And, I like to, in the book, I give a lot of fun examples that we can do for manifesting, like manifesting games around money, and in the relationship section, I have it broken down into 4 sections. So there's love, relationships, there's career, and there's abundance and money and health. So those are and in each section, I like to give writing exercises, and I also like to give manifesting fun things we can do. And in the relationship one, I have people create a love box. I teach them what to do to make a love box if they want to manifest love. In the health, I talk about some rituals we can do in the shower to manifest better health for ourselves. So there's lots of fun stuff that you can do too that's in the book. And then of course I teach people or talk about how to make a manifesting postcard and send it to me. Anybody who's watching or listening, please send me a postcard and just shoot me a line and let me know that you sent me one. And when your manifestation becomes your reality, share your story with me.
Melisa, if someone wants to order your book, where would they go?
It's available on Barnes & Noble and Amazon.com. Yeah, and it's published by Mango Publishing, so it's also available there. So yeah, so you could get it there. You could get it in digital, or I prefer the print book because of the photos, because I like to look at them like that. But it's also available digitally if people want it that way.
I was able to get to about 40 pages into your book, and I'm just so excited. I can't wait to get back to reading it again. It's just really inspired. I love this kind of thinking, and I just love again, that shift that's happening in the world. I want to be a part of it.
Me too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Me too. There's nothing like feeling good. Who wants to feel like crap, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to like look for all the negative and see all the terrible things? I want to see the good stuff.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
want to enjoy the good stuff. I think it's amazing that you were homeless 8 years ago and you manifested 2 houses. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's just I made a decision. You know, it really was all that. That's all it was. I had found myself on a self-destructive path. I lost my wife almost 12 years ago, and I didn't really have a purpose for living. And you know, when I finally discovered the law of attraction, I started writing things down, and I started truly manifesting on a level like I never had before. You know. And so I'm pretty excited about the future, and you know, and I'm excited about the future starting today.
I think that's great. Well, I think a lot of people, what happens is something painful happens and we start searching because we're in so much pain that we start seeking, and that's when, you know, that's where the faith comes in. You know, there's a universal intelligence looking out for us, you know. So you discovered it, I discovered it. That's how a lot of people discovered it. You mentioned Eckhart Tolle, and I listened to his story. He was basically suicidal.
Oh man, he was in bad shape.
He had this awakening, you know. So that's what happens, I think, when we're in a lot of pain. We start asking for help, and it comes.
Yep, and we just reach out and just expect and wait for it, and it's really there.
Yeah.
And again, it's so cool when it comes from unexpected ways. You know, it's like, wow, this is the best.
I know. It really, really is. And I have a really funny story. So when I designed the book, I was really influenced by Nick Bantock. He's an artist, and he did the Griffin and Sabine. And I actually, you can't see it, I have it on my gallery wall. It's above his books. And they're letters and postcards that he created. It's fictional. It's a fictional story. And he created it, and they're just so beautifully done. I just love them. So I happened to be talking to a woman who wanted to be a guest on my radio show. I have a radio show on Wednesdays on 1-2 Radio where I talk about this. And I have guests like you had me today. And this is the kind of stuff we talk about. I feature other people. So she wants to be on my radio show, but her book's not finished. So I said, let's wait till your book's done. And she's an artist, and so we talked about art. And I mentioned that I was inspired by him, and she goes, "You're never gonna believe this. Guess who I sold my house to? Him."
No way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that would be a pretty exciting.
So I have his address, so I'm sending him a book.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, that's how it works.
Yep.
Of all the people, I don't even know this woman. I know her through Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Of all the people that I could have talked to, of all the people that's on my wall that I see every single day, it is him. And he's just such an influence. And I just want to, I don't want anything. I just want to say this book was inspired by you. Thank you. That's it.
You bet. About 20 years ago, I had an opportunity to see Victor Villaseñor, who was and is my favorite author. And after I got into the show, I sent an email just by chance to his publicist. And within 2 weeks, I got a call back, and they said, yeah, he's finishing his most recent book, and we'll be getting back with you right away. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is so manifesting, you know?
It is, and we're doing it all the time. So anybody who's listening today, just look in your life and say, I mean, I don't like this saying, be careful what you wish for, because it has a negative connotation, but there's a truth to it. Think about some of the things that people have said that have come to fruition, you know? So look at your life and look at the negative and the positive, but focus on the positive of some of the things that you knew you wanted, and then they showed up in your life later on. I guarantee you're going to find them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we've run out of time. I could just talk to you for hours. This is such a fascinating topic, and I think your book is really exciting. And again, Melisa Caprio, her book is Postcards to the Universe. Please get online, order this book, get it in your hands, start manifesting your own future today. Folks, you've been watching The Weekend Boost. I'm Paul Lane, and this is KUHS International. Again, we've been talking to Melisa Caprio. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. That was great.
That was exciting.
That was so much fun. The hour went by super fast.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow. Okay.
I am trying to shut down this other stuff here. Okay. I don't know if we're recording still. The cameras are still lit up.
Well, if we are, we're going off now.
Okay, Melissa, thank you so much, and we'll definitely be in touch. And I'm
Okay.
excited to see your next book. You won't believe it. Is that what it is? You won't believe this?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Postcards to the Universe. You're never going to believe it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Because that's what everybody says to me. You're never going to believe it. And I'm like, yes, I will.
Well, Melissa, you have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you. You too. I'm going to share it on my Facebook.